Hello. Welcome to Historic Germantown's Hall of Fame. Thank you for joining us as we celebrate the greatness of the German Township, and thank you for helping us raise the funds necessary to keep this precedent-setting consortium going. Tonight, I invite you to participate in a numbers game. You weren't expecting that, right? Not at a Hall of Fame event, right? But this numbers game will help you to focus on things you may not have realized before. First, how many honorees are in this 2021 Hall of Fame? Oh, that's an easy one. 3. We're going to have a wonderful time tonight getting to better know Mo Brooker, a world-renowned artist extraordinaire with an impressive oeuvre. Congressman Dwight Evans, who, with a lifetime of fighting to make ideas matter, makes a difference in the lives of his constituents in the 3rd Congressional District here in Philadelphia. And Dr. Erica Armstrong Dunbar, internationally read author and the Charles and Mary Beard Professor of History at Rutgers University. Okay, this one's not so easy. How many honorees are in Historic Germantown's Hall of Fame? Remember that this Hall of Fame began under auspices of the Germantown Historical Society back in the 1990s to celebrate individuals from the German Township who have made and continue to make a difference. A diverse crowd we can all be proud of. The answer is 52. I encourage you to visit Historic Germantown and learn more about them. Next, how many sites belong to Historic Germantown? These sites provide more than 80 jobs in our community, dozens more jobs connected with special projects, hundreds of volunteer opportunities, and hundreds of opportunities for our community to learn, to have fun, to kick back, and enjoy one another. The answer is 18, and you can find all of these sites on Historic Germantown's website, freedomsbackyard.com. These sites are all weathering the pandemic with grace and creativity. They continue to provide exciting tours, stories, and activities for children and adults alike. They represent the fullness of the German Township life over more than 300 years. As part of Historic Germantown, their voice is amplified and resounds far and wide. So those are important numbers to keep in mind. Speaking of numbers, we send a hearty thank you to you and all our sponsors who generously underwrote tonight's event, especially our lead sponsor, the Germantown Friends School. And we promised you when you registered that you would be entered into a drawing for prizes. So here is Kathy Lee, an historic Germantown board member and a friend of hers, to tell us who our first winners are.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Loretta. We are looking at one of our wonderful Grumblethorpe youth volunteers, Mr. Anwar Al-Sid. He's at historic Grumblethorpe. It used to be called the Big House of Worcester, but now is home to a lot of our wonderful youth volunteers. So Anwar Al-Sid, why don't you tell us what you do at Grumblethorpe and why you were there?
What I do at Grumblethorpe is pretty much the same thing everyone else does, but particularly what I've been doing today at least is harvesting. We harvested some Asian pears, some peaches. We also pruned them, which is basically making sure that there's not too many of them so that they basically rot and die.
And how did you become a volunteer there?
I originally became a volunteer here when one of my neighbors told me about the job and said it would be good. It would be something good for me to work on during the summer. And originally all I did was come here for like a job to keep me busy, but I've enjoyed being here a lot. It's cool to be like out in nature, really doing something with my hands.
Fabulous. Well, you have another job today, and it is to pick up that beautiful little jar. Thank you so much, because you're going to now draw our first raffle winner.
The first draw is George Stern.
Fabulous job. How about choosing another one? While you're doing that, I know there are two ginkgo trees, some of the oldest ones in the country, a female and a male. So
Yes.
let's draw in honor of those two trees.
The second name is Hannah Henderson. Henderson.
Let's pick another one. We have one more to go after this one. This is your third. You have four to pick.
All right.
Who's the next lucky winner?
Number 3 is Dennis Pickerel. Pickeral.
Congratulations, Dennis. And your last one, your last duty, Anwar.
The last one is Carolyn and Tim Adams. Adams.
Thank you so much, Anwar. Thank you for all that you do at Grumblethorpe and all you have done for the Hall of Fame raffle drawing today.
It's good to be here.
We'll be back for our second drawing.
Thanks, Kathy. The Grumblethorpe Youth Volunteers are such a wonderful part of our community, as many longtime friends of historic Germantown already know. For those of you that are new and just learning about our organization, Historic Germantown is a collaboration between 18 cultural, natural, and historic sites that are located in Northwest Philadelphia. This consortium helps preserve and interpret these places, promote them to both our neighbors and visitors from around the world, and present a wide range of public programs, events, educational and recreational activities. Together, these sites contribute to our dynamic, welcoming community, one that consistently produces amazing artists, leaders, and thinkers like those we honor today. The Hall of Fame recognizes individuals with roots in what was called the old German Township, which includes Mount Airy, Chestnut Hill, and Germantown, those that lived, worked, or worshiped in these communities. Some are grassroots neighborhood leaders, others internationally recognized in their field. The three we honor this evening, Mo Brooker, Dwight Evans, and Erica Armstrong Dunbar, have strong ties to Germantown and are also known nationally for their work. All three have cleared space, have made history in terms of who gets to be in the room, who represents these neighborhoods, whose voice is heard, and whose stories are told. And while we honor what they have already accomplished, let's remember that their careers are not over. Some of their important work still may lay ahead of them. A central theme of the award is that this community is still making history. Yes, we have much from the past to celebrate and to learn from, but our best days may be right now or sometime in our future. These three inductees are outstanding, yet they would all humbly acknowledge that there are many other neighbors or those with Germantown roots that would be worthy of this honor as well. This community is abundant in its talent and gifts. Reflecting on this theme, what would it look like if this honor had been given to 3 people every year for the past 3+ centuries? We'd be looking at a list of more than 1,000 Germantowners who helped build and shape this region and the larger society. Some of those names might be familiar to us now, but many others would not be. The names and accomplishments of too many of our community leaders have been lost in time. So it's our collective work, both to continue to honor those still making history now, as well as those that have shaped this area over the past decades and centuries. With that in mind, I'd like to invite Dwayne Granum, the Governance Chair on Historic Germantown's Board of Directors, to introduce our first honoree.
Thank you, Twomi, and thank you to those of you who have bid on our great auction items and those individuals and businesses that contributed to the auction. If you have not yet bid, the auction will remain open for another 24 hours. A link to the site will be on screen at the conclusion of our program. Now, let's learn about our first Germantown Hall of Fame inductee, Mo Brooker.
My name is Mo Brooker. Actually, my name is Mo Albert Brooker. I'm a painter. I've been a painter for 60 years, which is a long time.
he was drawing. If he was drawing in the middle of the street, if he was drawing on the pavement, in the backyard, he always had his focus there. My name is Vivian Brooker Ford, and I am the sister of Mo Brooker. There were 7 boys and me. I'm very protective of my brothers. Very, very protective of each one.
Going from high school to the academy, you apply for a scholarship. Southern, which is the high school I went to, we generally garnished about 4 or 5 of those scholarships to the academy every year. I did not win. I didn't get one.
I think because he was a black boy, they just didn't feel that he probably had the talent. I thought they had made a dreadful mistake. So I went upstairs and I got all dressed up and looked as adult as I could, and I went down to the academy. And I went in and I said I would like to see the president. And I said, this young man will be a gift to this academy. And I said, if you don't accept him, you're going to have a great deal of grief later. And he said, well, we'll see. Well, I think it must have been about 3 days later, he got a letter of acceptance.
I'm Louis Tanner Moore. I'm an art collector and have had the pleasure of knowing Mo Brooker for something over 30 years. White artists get to grow up wanting to be the best artist in the world. And black artists are supposed to want to be as good as anybody else.
The world expects artists of color to paint or draw or sculpt African-esque images. I'm not African. I am descendant from Africans, yes, but I'm not African. I am an African American. John Coltrane said, when you're working and you learn the basics and you learn what is going on, you have to look to the past and do it in a different way. So for me, abstraction was what I wanted to do. But I did not want to do abstraction that was African-esque. I wanted to do abstraction that, for me, made a point.
What I've really drawn to with Mo is that he has such a particular language, vocabulary, set of mark making that you don't look for the signature because the work announces the spirit that made it.
His paintings, to me, tell more about him. It tells me a story about him. I can tell when he's sad, and I can tell when he's very happy.
I am greatly honored by the Philadelphia Museum. It's a major museum in terms of the world. When they bought one of my works, I would go up to the museum and stand in front of my work. Someone would come by and I'd say, what do you think of that? Isn't that a wonderful painting? I'd like to meet that man. You know, and people would say, yes, we've heard about him. And I would walk, my wife would just shake her head. But I would do that because I was so pleased that I was in a museum that I had grown up with. And then it just began to happen. The Philadelphia Museum, the Cleveland Museum, it just went and went and went and went.
He was part of a tradition of Philadelphia artists who enriched our lives and followed their own vision. You know, that he developed a way of working that can be seen in museums across the country and across the world, that his work has found its place and been appreciated for the gift that it is and for the gifts that it offers us.
But he's a kind, generous, selfless person. He is intelligent, profound. I mean, I could go on and on. Sartorially resplendent when he wants to be. And he can look like a ragamuffin when he wants to. But those kinds of contradictions make Mo, you know, who he is.
I would like all young people to understand it doesn't come necessarily easily, but you fight your way to what you want to get. And if someone recognizes what you do, smile. Smile.
Mo, thank you for sharing your inspiring life story and your powerful art with us. I look forward to seeing that 30-foot canvas installed in Philadelphia. Now, I'm pleased to introduce to you U.S. Congressman Dwight Evans, a truly remarkable leader.
My name is Dwight Evans. I'm a member of the United States Congress in the 3rd Congressional District in Pennsylvania. I consider myself lock, stock, and barrel Germantown. And I mean, I'm sitting here at the first church that I went to was Providence Baptist Church.
God chooses us, and He has a plan, and He has an assignment for you. And He had that for Dwight. We had a family of 5, and when you look at your siblings, who knows what's down the road?
I'm State Representative Stephen Kinsey, and I know Congressman Evans because he's my congressman, he's a friend, and I consider him a good colleague. Dwight grew up on Topahaka Street. I grew up on the west side. Dwight was on the east side. But this was this kid who was from Germantown High School, lived in the area. So, folks knew of Dwight Evans.
We're being raised by our parents, also our extended family, my mother's parents. They were extremely impactful on shaping who we were.
We were a working class family because everybody was working. My father was working. My mother was a waitress. My grandmother was a seamstress. Everybody had a job.
Not only did everybody work, but everybody had multiple jobs. And looking back at it now, it was just the norm.
The values that they instilled on me is being productive as individuals and contributing to society. I graduated from college when I was 21, and I worked at the Urban League at about 22, 23. And though I enjoyed it, I really was looking for more. I was really looking for how to make a difference.
I mean, there is room for growth if you stay with the organization. But you're telling us, I'm going to leave that job. And Dwight announces he's going to run for state representative. Now, remember he had to run for the Democratic nomination, and there were a total of 5 other candidates running for the Democratic nomination.
For me being a young black man, I didn't see too many elected officials that really looked like me, let alone from my neighborhood. So then when Dwight ran, Dwight was this young kid from Germantown. So when you have these folks from your high school, your alma mater, running for office, there's some excitement there because, guys from Germantown.
I got elected in 1980. I became a ranking member of 1982 on the Appropriation Committee. So what I did is I mastered the state's budget, and I studied it inside and outside to understand how to drive policy outcome.
You want to talk about strategic. Dwight went out to visit every single Democratic member. I mean, we're talking about driving out towards Pittsburgh or Erie, PA, but it was Dwight Evans who was making his rounds to talk to every single Democratic member about getting their support to be the Appropriations Chairman.
I became chairman of the House Appropriation Committee in 1990. Never had any African American ever become chairman of the House Appropriations Committee. And now to be the representative of this district and to be the 5th African American congressman, the 5th in the history of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in this particular district.
I would sit there quietly and just listen to Dwight talk about strategy, whether it was housing, whether it was employment, whether it was just opportunities for folks. But what I also learned from Dwight was the importance of building relationships. And Dwight had them not only with Democratic members, but just as importantly, Dwight had them with lobbyists and advocates and organizations, and he had them with folks on the other side of the aisle.
You can't make anything happen without relationships. You have to learn to compromise, and then it's a matter of a process.
Most of the people have who have been around with me, they see what the people who were influences to me, and I try to impart these influences to them and to use that as a model.
It was folks like Dave Richardson, Dwight Evans, who led the charge and sort of just paved the path for folks like myself and others to follow through. And Dwight was truly a leader of that.
There are other future Dwights who will come along in the next generation. And so I hope that they will learn from Dwight's story.
It's so inspiring to learn about the Congressman's decades-long commitment to service and to supporting the next generation of political leaders. Our final inductee in our program is a fellow schoolmate of mine, as she was only a couple of years behind me at Germantown Friends School. I'm pleased to introduce to you author and historian, Dr. Erica Armstrong Dunbar.
I'm Erica Armstrong Dunbar, and I am a professor and a writer, a historian, a storyteller.
My name is Frances, and Erica is my goddaughter. So I've known her since the time she was born up until today. But our connections with Germantown really began when she came here to Germantown Friends School.
I was fortunate to get to go to school with history all around me, with the President Washington's summer house literally almost next door. I do look at my years as a student, a community member of Germantown, as really sort of ground zero for my journey.
I am known as Pat Bass. I was a school nurse, but everybody knew me, and I was a familiar face. First of all, I looked like her, and her mom was a nurse. So there were many connections, I think, that probably made it a comfortable place for Erica. She frequently had a reason to come by and see me in my office. Not because she was sick, it was just because it was probably fun to come and see me. You couldn't forget Erica. I mean, even when she was younger, you couldn't forget her. She was always inquisitive. I'm not surprised that she pursued a life of writing and history.
Erica's always been a scholar, from tiny on. She loves reading, she loves research. But I think there's something inherent in Erica that it's like a magic almost, in my opinion, because she always has sought to speak the truth.
I get to spend my days reading, writing, and talking about Black people, and that fills me with joy.
But I do know she's very active. She's very involved, and all for a cause. I mean, it's all stuff that she's really interested in. Her cause, her journey.
I'm the Charles and Mary Beard Distinguished Professor of History at Rutgers University in New Brunswick. The other part of my sort of academic career is that I serve as the National Director for the Association of Black Women Historians. When we think about the field of American history in particular, that it's incomplete without the stories of Black women. And when we look at the field in general, the cutting edge work is coming from Black women historians and those who focus on the lives of Black women.
For so very long, we've been silenced and we've been ignored as Black women, historically and even contemporarily. So why not have this young icon writer begin to focus on that?
I was finishing up my first book, A Fragile Freedom, which asks us to think about the lives of enslaved and free women who lived in Philadelphia. Growing up, I felt like I knew a lot, or maybe not a lot. I knew something about enslaved women in the South. But I knew very little about slavery in the North. And so I wanted to sort of track and trace everyday events in the late 18th century. And the way that historians do that is we look at primary sources, we look at documents, we look at newspapers. I came across an advertisement for a runaway. The language in the advertisement read something like, absconded from the household of the President of the United States. That's George Washington. Who is George Washington advertising for? Who's run away? And there she was. Her name, Oni Judge. How can it be that I'm a Philadelphian, that I'm an expert in African American women's history, and I don't know this story? What happened to her? Did the Washingtons find her? What did the end look like for her? That time in the Historical Society of Pennsylvania, looking through newspapers, led me on a 10-year journey to uncover the life of one of the most incredible women I've ever encountered in the archives.
You know, she doesn't just want those that she's, people in her PhD level to read. She wants the people who are on the street in Germantown or the street of North Philadelphia or wherever to read her stuff and say, oh, this makes sense. This is about who I am, who we are.
To watch her grow this way, she doesn't stop. She's done this, I've achieved this. Let's see what else I can do. Where else can I go? Which way can I go to help keep enlightening people about what it is that we need to learn about?
I'm so proud. I'm so happy that she's being recognized. I'm just so proud of who she is and who she will continue to be.
I don't think anything could make me love Germantown more than I already do. So being inducted into the Hall of Fame it's an honor, but it feels like coming home.
I can't wait to read Erica's next book and to hear about the exciting work she's continuing to drive forward in the world of history. I want to congratulate all of our 2021 inductees into the historic Germantown Hall of Fame. Thank you for sharing your talents with us. Now, I'd like to welcome back Kathy Lee for our final drawing.
Welcome back. It's time for our second drawing. And right now, in front of us is another one of our fabulous youth volunteers for Grumblethorpe, Assad Hadid Moore. Hello, darling. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Well, why don't you tell us why you enjoy working for Grumblethorpe as a volunteer?
I enjoy working at Grumblethorpe. Well, once again, I like working hands-on as well. But it's a great group of people and a great group of workers that I work with every Friday and Saturday. And it's just a great experience to have and especially to be a part of something in the Germantown community.
Now, see, that to me is a very, very, very wonderful thing that you just said, because taking care of our community and preserving it is exactly what we need from young people like you. Well, now it's time to make four people who are watching this virtual Hall of Fame very happy. So why don't you pull the first name out of the hat for us?
Okay. The first name is Steve and Mary Kurtz. I'm sorry.
Excellent, excellent. So let's pick a second winner. And congratulations to the Kurtzes.
The second winner is John Cromer.
Fabulous. What school did you attend?
I attend Girard Academic Music Program.
Oh, what do you play?
I play the drums.
Spoken like a true Moor. Okay, let's pick another name.
All right. Our third winner is Elizabeth Ginmill. That is spelled Gemmill.
Everyone that's watching should check out Grumblethorpe. It is a beautiful site. I highly recommend it. And you get to meet Assad and Anwar. So why don't you please pick the last name for us?
The last name is Mary and Bill Hangley. It's spelled Hangley.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all that you do with your friend Anwar. And I want to congratulate all of the winners of our second virtual drawing for Historic Germantown. And I'm going to turn it back over to Loretta or whoever else is coming after me. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you, Kathy Lee and the Grumblethorpe Youth Volunteers. We've come to the end of our event, and we want to thank all those who have helped to make this event a great success, including the wonderful Dwayne Granum and our indomitable executive director, Twomey Forrest. Thanks to all of you who bought tickets to this event, and to our host committee, and to all of our sponsors, and to PWP Video, who worked countless hours on our behalf. And we can't forget to thank Historic Germantown's board and hardworking staff. You can still support our auction for the next 24 hours, or you can make a donation at Historic Germantown's website, freedomsbackyard.com. We hope you will leave this Hall of Fame event tonight feeling enriched, empowered, and lifted up, knowing that amidst all the consternation all around the world, there are people rising up to do good. There is hope. There is joy. Thank you again for your support of Historic Germantown. Be well.